What is up, boyos? This is Spoilercast. I'm Nick, that's Jake. Let's get on with it. We're taking a break from the MCU in anticipation for Spider-Man No Way Home. We have decided to halt the MCU movie watching and start up an entire discography of Spider-Man watching. I don't know. We're watching all of the Spider-Mans. I can't say it any more fancy than that. We watched Spider-Man 1 and Spider-Man 2, but we're only talking about Spider-Man 1. We'll talk about Spider-Man 2 in another video. This is the Sam Raimi Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst and all those good actors, you know. Can't think of them off the top of my head.
I want to know, Nick.
Uh-huh.
What do you think of this movie? I want to know. What do you think? It's been a long time.
You want my honest opinion?
I want the honest thing. It's been 20 years, you know. It's been a long time. Years. What do you think?
Okay, so if I were to be completely unbiased, and be
unbiased.
and like, you know, this movie is as if this movie came out today, I guess. Like, it's the first time I see this movie, I guess. Like, that doesn't even feel fair for this movie, though. Because this movie, Spider-Man 1, is the first real superhero movie that feels like a superhero movie, right? It was before Iron Man. It was before The Incredible Hulk, right?
Yeah. It was before, you know, Batman Begins. Yeah.
It was before Batman Begins. It tried something, right? It has a good following. However, I don't like this movie. Spider-Man 1, I don't like it. I will tell you what I don't like about this movie.
Okay. Yeah.
The writing.
Okay.
It's bad. The dialogue writing is bad. I don't like the cast for Spider-Man. I don't like Tobey Maguire. I fucking hate Kirsten Dunst.
Oh.
I love the supporting cast. I love J. Jonah Jameson. I love the Green Goblin. I like Harry Osborn. I like Aunt May, Uncle Ben. Everything else, cool. I like the tropes in this movie.
You're missing one very important character. Bonesaw. I got you for 3 minutes.
Yeah, okay, sure. He's great.
Bonesaw is ready.
Honestly, for the part that they gave him, fucking fantastic.
Come on, dude. It's iconic. It's iconic. Yeah. Octavia Spencer showed up. It's weird, man.
It's fantastic. Okay. That aside, I still didn't like that movie. Even with the cast, I like the Green Goblin. Like I said, I like the supporting cast. Everything about the supporting cast is fantastic. The origin story of the Green Goblin, his suit, his like iconic like pumpkin grenades. I liked it. Anything between any scene with Peter Parker and any scene with Mary Jane, I just didn't like. I like the scenes with Spider-Man were good. Scenes with Peter Parker, fucking horrible. I understand that's where like a lot of the charm comes from, is just the awkwardness and the shittiness and just kind of like that uncomfortable feeling that you get from Peter Parker in this movie is kind of like why you like this movie, because it's like, oh, this is bad. And but I'm enjoying it because it's so bad. And I understand that. I still didn't like it. After 20 years, as a kid, I've loved this movie. As a little kid, I love this movie, and I'm afraid that a lot of my social interactions in the past are because I watched this movie, and that makes me really sad. And I'm like, I want to be like Spider-Man, and I'm like, I wish I didn't see this movie when I was a kid, because I feel like
we all knew Spider-Man was weird in this movie. Even
I don't know if I did. I don't know if I did.
Oh man, I couldn't disagree with you more. Okay.
Great. So you hated the supporting cast. You loved Peter
no. Okay.
and
so
MJ.
So no. I shouldn't have said it like that, because I don't think this is like a perfect movie, like, at all. I think it has a lot of flaws. Even when I don't think you can look at this movie without like considering when it came out.
Right.
You can't.
It is a timepiece for sure.
Because like the only real like superhero movies we had were like the Superman movies, you know, from the 80s, the Batman movies from the late 80s, early 90s, and one X-Men movie. But those were kind of that X-Men movie and this movie were kind of probably filming like in tandem, so they probably weren't influenced by that at all. But like, I think what this movie does, and we watch it now, you know, kind of blinded to it, but what this movie does, we don't even think about what it does. This movie sets up Spider-Man better than any other movie ever has, because this movie did it so well that no other future movie had to do it again. They set up the Spider, they set up Uncle Ben, you know, they set up like he's a nerdy high school kid, and Mary Jane. But I agree with you. Every scene, and I counted them, there's 3. Every scene between Peter and Mary Jane is fucking horrendous. It is like hard to watch. Peter is fucking creepy. He's a weirdo. Has not aged well. Also, when he goes and fights Bonesaw, you know, he's meant to be quippy Spider-Man, but he hops up on the roof and says, "Who made that outfit for you? Your husband?" And it's like, "Oh, Spider-Man, you're homophobic."
Yeah. That's another thing about this movie. The first
man.
Spider-Man, we get no fucking quips. There is no quips while fighting.
He's a little quippy. He's, you know, but like, you got to remember, he's new to the game. He's figuring it out. But like, I think this movie does a lot well. So like, we have to separate it from the MCU, where we think of these movies as like they have this formula. This movie doesn't follow that formula. Like, it doesn't. It feels like a real movie, and I feel like we're starting to get into this place again, where like superhero movies are doing their own thing again. Like, we saw it with Ragnarok, and I think even Shang-Chi is like I actually heard this Anthony Carboni said this on Kind of Funny the other day. He said
that's a cool guest for them.
He said the old jeans went out of style and then went back into style. And I feel like that's so true about this movie, where like this movie went out of style, but now it's like sort of coming back into style, because there's so much fucking Flash and not Flash Thompson, but there's so much like
there's a little Flash.
It's dripping with style, this movie. Like the cuts between like the Spider-Man. I don't know if you noticed this, but like every scene there would be like a sort of like Spider-Man setup. Like, this is how he got his powers. This is what happened. It would cut immediately to Green Goblin, like they were polar opposites, and it's like they were both going through this origin story together. And like the framing with all of this stuff with Green Goblin is so fucking good and so fucking cheesy, and I love it so much. And like the outfit, it looks like a Power Ranger outfit. It does, but like it's still awesome. Like it looks so good, and like it's so cheesy, and no one's even tried to touch Green Goblin except for when they did, but it was the Hobgoblin in the Amazing Spider-Man
movie.
The Amazing Spider-Man.
But he does. They don't really even show him though.
They do. I mean, he kills Gwen Stacy. Spoilers.
You're right. They do show him.
Yeah, they show him on the glider and shit. But they've never done like Green Goblin, Norman Osborn since this. Because no one could fucking touch it, dude. Like,
because Willem Dafoe did such a fantastic job.
He eats up the scenery. Dude, it's so funny. Like, he gets his powers. He gets like absorbed by this green mist. Which, why is he in this big room? It's all for style. It's all for substance.
Yeah, it's all style.
He starts choking. He's dying. The guy goes in there, starts doing CPR while he's sitting up. He doesn't lay him down. He tries doing CPR on Norman, and then Norman grabs him, throws him, and it's like such a good shot when he like goes through the glass and then like into the workstation, and then he hops up and he's like oh yeah. He like hisses. Oh my god, it's fantastic, dude. I love all this stuff with him. I think Spider-Man, yeah, I don't know, I could keep going, but anyway,
I think Power Rangers is a great comparison. I think that is such a good comparison for what this movie is, because you look at Power Rangers, same sort of situation. It's cheesy, it's got some goofy ass, enemies or villains, but it works. It's like, this is exactly what I want and expected, and I think that's true for this. However, the parts when Peter Parker is Peter Parker is like, I don't want this part of it. I don't want this part of it. This part of it is really bad. Like, it's funny. It's funny, but it's sad funny. It's like, oh.
No,
somebody with charisma didn't write this. Like, the writers for Deadpool did not write this, or it's very like, oh man, that's. And I think they tried to do that because he's a nerd or whatever. And back in the early 2000s, nerds were nerds and not cool. So
yeah,
I don't know.
And this, yeah, it does play up the trope of like the revenge of the nerds sort of thing. Like, ooh, look at me, I'm so cool, which is lame and not cool at all. So like, I agree. Like, Toby is super fucking weird in this movie, but like, I also kind of like him. I kind of like him as Toby or as Peter. It's like a different take on a Peter Parker, where it's like he's a little bit more unhinged. He's a little bit like weirder and creepier. But like, if you're going around doing this weird ass shit, you'd probably be a little unhinged and a little fucking weird.
That's true.
And, like, to be a guy that gets bit by a spider after walking through like, they're like, these are military grade spiders. They're super spiders. And then he gets bit by a spider. This man doesn't think to be like, hey, I just got bit by a super spider. He doesn't even think to do that. And then he's feeling sick. He's got a big boil.
He goes back to school. They don't show this, but he goes back to school. He gets on the bus, goes back to school, and then back home. Who knows how long his day was back at school. He goes back home, doesn't tell anybody. He's just like, I'm going to go to sleep. And then has like this, like, he's literally gonna die. Like, he's got like horrible hot flashes, and like he's sweating, and like he's
unhinged. Yeah, he's an insane person, and like I buy that for him.
yeah. Well, yeah, they do it really well with how creepy he is.
Yeah, and I think Sam Raimi just like kind of did that on purpose. But like, I think what really makes that fall apart is all the stuff with Mary Jane, especially the ending where she's like, it was always you, Peter. I was and they go through this like weird thing with Peter or not Peter, with Mary Jane, where it's like, does she not know him at all, or have they known each other since they were 6? Because I can't tell. I don't know which one is which.
Like, there's a line, because they live right next to each other, and there's a line that he says, he's like, does she even realize that I'm her next door neighbor or whatever? And later in the movie, she's like, we've been friends since we were 4 years old. Yeah. And he's like, what? Then obviously you fucking creep. Like, obviously she knows your next door neighbors. Like, you've been living together since you were 4.
Yeah, it's one of those things where he's like, I'm a nice guy, so I should get the girl. And it's like, I don't know, man. You gotta like talk to her to, it doesn't just happen,
Yeah.
He never really put in the effort. So, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
it's like the scene at the scene in the lab or whatever, where they're looking at spiders, is pretty good to show that. 'Cause like, Peter doesn't have any friends, and you see that from the beginning, and he's like running alongside a bus, and everybody's laughing him on the bus, and people are like, no, and even the driver's like, I'm not gonna stop for this dorky kid. And it's like, wow, nobody fucking likes Peter. And then this rich kid fucking pulls up with his dad and then goes, hey Pete, how's it going? And you're like, wait, what? How is this friendship a thing? And then later you find out that it's not really a friendship. Like they don't really like each other. Like Harry Osborn just kind of picks on him.
Yeah, it's really weird.
But he literally gives him good advice at the beginning where they're at this field trip. And he's like, you should go talk to her. And he's like, yeah, well, and then he takes too long. And then Harry like goes up there and says exactly, he's like, this is literally what you should do. And he takes that as like, oh, like it's.
Yeah, and I'm almost like on Harry's side. It's like, yeah, Harry is kind of breaking bro code a little by like going for the girl that Peter obviously likes a lot. But at the same time, Peter's not making his move. And,
yeah, he's not doing anything.
That's on Peter, man. And like Harry's making the move, and she seemed to like it. And they had to throw in the scene where Harry acts like an asshole because like Norman, Harry's dad, who turns out to be Green Goblin, is like, you're just dating that dumb bimbo. That dumb bimbo is just dating you because you have a lot of money. And then Harry comes in and she's like, that was pretty fucked up what your dad said, right? And he's like, no, he's right. You are a dumb bimbo and you want me for my money. And it's like, what? Where did this come from all of a sudden?
It was so out of character. But yeah, they had to do that because then she does a horrible thing and just leaves for Peter for some reason.
Well, okay. I don't think she left for Peter. I'm a little confused by the ending. The ending, she's at the funeral for Norman because Spider-Man killed Norman.
Well, he kills himself.
Yeah, but like, and somehow they don't know he's Green Goblin, even though he had like puncture. I don't know, whatever. But like, she's at the funeral with Harry, but I thought they had established earlier that her and Harry had broken up.
Right.
And then it's not like she was close with Norman. Norman like called her a dumb bimbo like earlier in the movie.
Right. Why would she?
So was she there because of Peter? But like earlier in the movie, Norman's like, oh, are you raised by your aunt and uncle, best friend to my son? I have no idea. And then later they're having Thanksgiving dinner together. It's all like sort of weird and just sort of like, let's just place these scenes together to make it convenient.
Right. Yeah. So, and like I said, the dialogue in this movie is really bad and it doesn't explain a whole lot of like interactions or character choices at all. Because you're right. He walks up and he's like, who are you again?
Yeah.
And then at the end of the movie, he's like, Peter, you're Harry's friend. Anything for you. And it's like, okay. It's just so strange. Yeah.
Well, and also like the concept of time in this movie is really weird because like they start out as like 30-year-olds in high school, and I think the one that looks the worst as a high schooler is Flash Thompson, who's like Joe Magliano or whatever his name is. He plays Deadshot later on in the DC films, but like that dude looks like a 30-year-old. Like he doesn't look young, and then also everyone is like pissed off at Peter. Like that Flash tried to beat him up. Flash is like 2 feet taller than him and like has 100 pounds on him, and Peter's like, I defended myself, and everyone's like, Peter, you shouldn't have fucking punched him like that. It's like,
you fucked up.
What
Peter.
do you mean? Like Peter had no choice. Like, what do you mean? But anyway, I digress. The concept of time is weird because it starts off with them in high school, and then all of a sudden they're like in a dorm together, and like Mary's like, after high school, I want to become an actor. And then he sees her on the street and is like, oh, you're a famous actor now. It's like, how long has it been? You guys are famous actors after.
Well, she wasn't a famous actor. She worked at a
right. But like, what the fuck did she expect? And what did he expect? Because she's like trying to hide that she works at a diner. That's a totally normal thing to do when you're 18 years old, fresh out of high school.
Even he's like, yeah, I'm still looking for jobs. I'm trying to get a job. And she's like, yeah, I had a job and I just got back from another job and I'm getting another job. And it's just like, what? Like, why lie? You're clearly doing better than he is.
Yeah. But then Norman's like, hey, Peter, you can come work at my, that's my Norman. You could come work at my, at my lab. And he's like, I don't really want to do that because it feels like nepotism. And he's like, I respect that.
Which is dumb. I don't understand that. Like, you want to be a scientist and Oscorp is like the biggest science place where you can like really focus on that. And he's like, I want to be a photographer.
Yeah,
you're like,
they don't really play
what?
up the fact that Peter is a really smart guy in this version of Spider-Man. Yeah. They don't play up that he's like they do kind of mention that he got fired from Mr. Connor's lab or whatever.
Because he was late all the time. Yeah. But so he was already working in a lab. He was already doing science experiments.
But that felt more like a throwaway line as just like a sort of like wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Dr. Connor, that's the lizard, like wink, wink.
Right.
And he shows up in the next movie. But like, yeah, it just felt more like a, hey, catch that little, more than it was like he's smart.
Right.
Yeah, but that's something we're completely skipping over, and why I think this movie, is actually really good, because I think it sets up the characters. First of all, the Spider-Man suit, there's no better Spider-Man suit.
It's really fucking good.
There's no better Spider-Man suit. Willem Dafoe is amazing. Yeah, like Peter's kind of weird, but I think they like set up the character of Spider-Man where, this is totally not where I was going, but now I'm tangenting. But like, you know, it sets up the character of like, he gets the powers. He doesn't know how to use the powers properly. So he's like, I'm going to use it to get a lot of money so I can get a car. And then his uncle gets killed. And then he finds out the guy who killed his uncle was the guy that he let escape. And that really sets him on his way, where Ben is like, with great power comes great responsibility. And like, I think it just sets up Peter Parker so well. But then on top of that, there is no better J. Jonah Jameson, who is, you know, at the Daily Bugle. And I actually love that whole cast of characters at the Daily Bugle.
At the Daily Bugle is the best fucking place. Yeah. And after watching this movie, I have so much more respect for J. Jonah Jameson. And I think he's like the best character in sense of good. I don't even know if that's true. He's such a good character, because like the point where, is it this one or is it the next one? I think
it's the second one that this happens.
The second one?
Yeah, I think it's the second one. I know what you're talking about.
No, it's not. It's not. It's the first one, because he like blasts through and he grabs Green Goblin grabs him by the throat or the shirt or whatever, and he's like, "Who takes Spider-Man's pictures?" And he's just like, I don't know, they come in anonymously, and all the while Peter Parker is like standing right in the door, like as this well, I guess he like ran away and is changing, but like he's like just there. J. Jonah Jameson was just talking to him, and Green Goblin's like, who takes pictures? And J. Jonah Jameson's like, I don't know, even though he obviously does. And it's just like, wow, he's such a good dude. Like, he cares, like he's such a hard ass, and that he puts on this front, but he literally really cares for the people that like work for him.
It adds like another dimension to him, where like he does have journalistic integrity, and like, but he's still trying to make like those headlines, you know, like that's his whole goal. And he, you know, and everyone kind of like, I love the scenes with J. Jonah Jameson, because like there's the scene where he comes in and he's like, I'll give you 200 for those pictures. And Peter's like, I'm not going to do that. That's like not worth it at all. He stands up, the big dude, the big black dude with gray hair. He kind of like, I forget his name, but like, he kind of like looks at Peter and he's like, no, stay here. You know, like he just talks a big game, but like deep down, he's doing the right thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly.
He kind of talks it up, but you know, yeah.
He's the most lovable character in this movie for sure. J.K. Simmons, I think, blows it out of the park with this, and I'm so glad that he's coming back for the new movie. Or at least he was back for that little section at the end of the last Spider-Man.
Yeah, I really liked like I felt like Peter and Elizabeth Banks had more of a chemistry than him and Mary Jane. Just sort of weirds, and but I wish we saw more of her, because I think she's really good in the very limited amount of scenes she's in this movie and the next movie. Yeah,
like you said, the Bugle cast is fantastic.
Yeah,
I've got a couple of interesting facts.
Oh, here we go.
For you. Tobey Maguire had never read a Spider-Man comic when he was cast as Peter Parker. It shows.
It's not. I don't think it's his fault, man. I really don't.
I don't know. It's bad
because I get the impression. I get the impression. Sorry to cut you off. I get the impression that like, this is early in like green screen. This is just a couple years after Star Wars Episode 1, which was like the first movie to be shot all digitally, like big budget movie and like on green screen. And I get the impression that Tobey Maguire had never really like acted in front of a green screen. He had never done anything like that before. And like you could tell in his VO as well, like his voiceovers just sound sort of lifeless and dead. And I can't really blame him. That's more of a Sam Raimi thing. And in his defense, I doubt he's ever really worked with green screens that often before. And that's why I think movies with a lot of green screen have gotten better and better and better with time, because more and more directors are just sort of used to working with that and used to dealing with actors who are not used to dealing with green screen and used to like, you know what I'm saying? So like,
I get what you're saying.
Anyway,
it's not his fault.
This one's anyone's fault. It was just like early.
It was just the time. Yeah, for sure. This one, I think most people know. It took Tobey Maguire 156 takes to catch MJ's whole lunch on the tray. Like, he literally did it, but it took 156 takes to do it. Why they would go through the trouble and that much tape to get that scene right instead of just using CG, because that scene looks bad anyway.
I think it looks cool.
It kind of looks, they speed it up and it looks a little fake. I think it looks
cool. I like it.
Hugh Jackman's Wolverine was supposed to do a cameo in the first movie.
Apparently. Wow. That would have been... Wow. How would that work?
Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy hinted at it. J. Jonah Jameson mentioned that there are already a Doctor Strange, suggesting the Sorcerer Supreme was operating in New York.
Yeah, there is that little mention. He also mentions Eddie Brock.
Right. And then Willem Dafoe did 90% of his Green Goblin stunts.
That's awesome. That is so cool to hear.
Yeah, and that's pretty much it. There are a couple of them for the other movies, but yeah, cool. Anyway, you want to rank this?
I mean, this is normally when we rank it.
It's the Spider-Man,
but it's the only one. It's the only one on there. So right now it's
so you want to read? You want to read it to the people?
Yeah, you got a document or no?
No, I'm just read it.
So at number 1, we've got Spider-Man. 2002's Spider-Man.
Beautiful.
That's it.
2002. That's it. That's the only list.
Yeah.
Tune in next week.
Or maybe this week, actually.
Maybe this week?
We'll probably post this week, yeah.
Okay, well, look out for the next video, which is Spider-Man 2. We're going to cover Spider-Man 2.
And look out, here comes the Spider-Man.
Nice. We're going to end it right there.